Hey everyone, it's Josh coming to you with the rare Monday Bobus interview. So this Wednesday on the show, we are celebrating our 100th episode, which we are so excited about. We're going to be talking about the seminal 2000 immersive sim, Deus Ex. Now, we wanted to get a sense of what working on the game was like, so I reached out to Anthony Franke. He worked as a quality assurance tester at Ion Storm, which was the studio that developed the game. And if you're at all familiar with Deus Ex, well, you've probably already heard his voice.
I'm JC Denton. My vision is augmented. How about I ask you a few questions? How's the raid going? How about a soda? Did something go wrong? What are we waiting for? How's your daughter? Is that God you're talking about, or just a bunch of new age crap? What a shame.
Over the course of a half hour, we talked about Jay's career in acting, the process of making such an influential game, and how Deus Ex continues to be so resonant 23 years after its original release. Hope you enjoy. So today I am thrilled to be joined by Anthony Franke. He is the original voice of JC and Paul Denton in Deus Ex. Jay, how's it going?
Good, man. How you doing, Josh?
I'm pretty good. I am so excited to talk a little bit. You're actually in Melbourne, Australia, so we had to set this up at kind of an odd time, so I'm glad we were able to make it happen.
It's the story of my life. Anytime anybody wants to talk to me, it's like, yeah, you know I'm in Australia, right? So... yeah, it's one of those
I'm
things.
a night owl, so we're all good.
You are one of. I will say that you are one of the few people that didn't make me go and do the time conversion.
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah. No, we're all about the comfort and convenience of our guests.
I appreciate it. I really do.
So Jay, first question for you: when is the last time that somebody asked you about Deus Ex?
Yesterday.
Yeah,
it's constant. Yeah, I get asked about it quite a lot. And it's surprising considering how long ago this game was released. Mm-hmm. But, you know, when you look at the game, it's kind of not surprising as well. So,
is it just people like reaching out to you online, walking up to you on the street, being like, "Hey, you sound like that guy"? Well, what does that look like for you?
No, nobody very few people on the street. Although one guy at a gaming con here in Melbourne recognized me and did do the "we're not worthy" thing.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, get up, please. That was nuts.
A little weird, yeah.
It was, but I appreciated it. He was being funny. So, yeah. But no, it's usually online. Once every couple days, somebody will send me a question or some query regarding Deus Ex. So.
And what do you usually do? Do you reply? Do you talk to people? I mean, you replied to me.
Yeah, I was on a television show as well.
Yeah.
In the 90s. I'm just a dude, and everybody else is just a dude or not a dude, I just talk to people. So I usually respond.
So why don't we talk about that exact thing, the show? You started out as an actor. There was a teen sitcom on NBC, California Dreams. It's my understanding that these were surf dudes with attitudes, kind of groovy.
Surf dudes with attitudes, kind of groovy.
We were kind of groovy, yes.
So what was that like, and how did that feel? And then also, how did you get from California Dreams to working in video games?
Okay, so basically, I got the role. I had been auditioning for years and years, and I did small parts on stuff like General Hospital, Married with Children, Bodies of Evidence, just a bunch of stuff. Did a few commercials, and then auditioned for the part of Jake in California Dreams. And got it. It was like 5 or 6 auditions later, the last one being in front of all the network executives, and so that was particularly terrifying.
Yeah, no kidding.
And and I ended up getting it, so that was good. Then the show, we did, I think a total, I came on the second season, and so altogether, I think there was a total of like 86 episodes or something like that, which is a pretty good run.
Yeah.
So then we ended, and I was, I'll be frank. My last name's Franke, but I will be frank. I was, very much into altering the mind and partying at the time. And I was doing a lot of it. And I think I just came into the mindset where I was like, I got to get out of here. Mm-hmm. I got to get out of this business for a while because I'm going to die. Like that was the thought I was having. Like, I'm going to end up dying. Like this is just crazy. Because no matter where I went, people were handing me stuff, and I couldn't I couldn't get away from the stuff that I enjoyed doing.
Right.
But I knew I needed to. So I basically just stepped away and lived on my savings for quite a while. Basically squandered a small fortune just living on it.
So what year was that when you left the show?
We finished filming in 96. I think it finished its main run in 97 and then went into syndication.
Sure. Okay.
So I was able to live on the small fortune I had acquired and able to live on residuals for quite a while because we went into syndication.
Support the striking SAG actors, please. Do it. Do it. They need the money.
Right. And I am actually. I just started to try to get back into acting just literally a couple months ago, basically.
Very cool.
This happened, but it is what it is, and I'm happy to be striking as well. So
yeah,
and I would have back then as well. It doesn't matter. So then I saw my money, my savings were dwindling. I still had plenty coming in, but it was still dwindling enough. And I was like, I got to work, and I had a guy living in one of the rooms in my house. And he came back, he said, dude, man, you'll never guess where I'm working. And I said, where? And he said, Activision. I was like, you fucking what?
Yeah, hell yeah.
You're doing what? I'm sorry, doing what? And he said, playing games, QA. I was like, what the are you freaking serious? What? So basically, he hooked me up with the person that hooked him up. And then within like 2 days, I was working at Activision as a QA guy. And then... they were layoffs, and they laid off a bunch of the QA guys because we were new.
Sure.
But then when they had to rehire people, they hired me back because they liked me. And then they sent me to Dallas for a game. I think it was Fighter Squadron Screaming Demons over Europe.
Okay.
And they basically needed an embedded QA guy at the studio that was working on it.
And at that point, you already had, I imagine, a fair amount of experience, and so it was like, oh, he's our guy. He'll get the job done, that kind of thing.
At that point, I had accrued quite a bit of experience at that point, and pretty much knew what I was doing for the most part. So ended up meeting somebody there. Ended up moving to Dallas for a while, and then got a job at Ion Storm.
Okay,
where. Apparently Daikatana was going to make everyone their bitch.
Absolutely. John Romero, known for doing that.
Yes, and honestly, to tell you the truth, like, it's unfortunate that everything turned out the way it did, but it's really not a bad game.
No, like, I've also heard nothing but good things about like John Romero as a person. That he's just he's a mensch to actually get along with. Yeah. Right.
He was fine. The studio was great to work at. We were treated well. The game was actually pretty good. It just was unfortunate that it came out with that it took so long to make, and it came out with the technology that it came out with. The Unreal Engine was already out at the time, and there was just a bunch of things. But it was a pretty decent game when you look at it like that. But anyway,
so just want to clarify something too. So you QA'd Daikatana at Ion Storm in Dallas?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. And then the QA manager said, "Hey, I want you to be the lead on Deus Ex here in the studio." And I said, "Yeah, man. I don't even know what that is, but sure, okay." And then I got my first build, and I played for about an hour, and I think I took off my headphone because we're in an office, and 54th floor of the Chase Tower in Dallas, a massive building, top floor.
Infamously with the glass overhead, blinding everybody as it comes down onto the computer monitors.
Absolutely. And I actually leaned back in my seat, took my headphones off, and I said, "What the fuck is this?" Like, holy shit, this game is I'm only playing such an alpha build, but I was already going, this is nuts. Yeah. This game is crazy. This is going to be massive, but at the same time I had no idea exactly how massive.
I'm curious about the early state of the game, in early QA, because obviously making a game like Deus Ex is something that would require a truly insane amount of playtesting because they were trying to do so many new things, right?
Right.
How did the game change and iterate over the course of that QA process? Do you remember?
It's so long ago. I just remember that it just kept getting better, and the stuff they added, like in a lot of games I've worked on, there's been stuff called a thing called feature creep. where devs just kind of add stuff without telling you, and you don't know that you need to test this thing. I don't think it was ever done intentionally on Deus Ex, but whenever something came up that I found that I wasn't told about or we weren't told about, it was kind of exciting and awesome. Whereas in a lot of projects, it was like, oh, damn it. Oh, nut, man. Oh, they added this thing. Now we got to figure out, okay, it's all right. We got to make a test checklist and yada, yada. With this, it was like, oh, wow, holy crap. So it was a lot of that.
Yeah.
I remember one of the bugs that I had found, I think it was I had shot one of the guards with a sniper rifle from pretty much as far away as you could shoot somebody, and I think I was aiming for his neck or something. And I did this a couple times. I aimed for his head, it was fine. I aimed for his body, it was fine. He just dropped. But I hit him in the neck, and he would turn upside down and just start running, like kind of moving around. It was really, really weird. But yeah, no, it was always exciting to get a new build, and always happy to. Plus the fact that, this was a War Inspector game too. I'm sure I don't need to. Right. So because it was a War Inspector game as well, it's like, yeah, whatever, man. Just throw it at me.
And you already knew, I'm sure, about War Inspector's reputation by virtue of having worked in the industry for a few years, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Had you played any of his other games before working on Deus Ex?
Yes. There was Wing Commander, which was awesome. System Shock, Wings of Glory. Crusader was badass. I loved Crusader. And then he did obviously the Ultima one that he did. And then also after we did Deus Ex, getting Thief.
Yeah.
That was like, oh, okay, that game was just so spectacular. It was ridiculous. So it was just like, yeah. So, and even the new Thief is actually pretty good as well. So I wasn't expecting it to be, but.
So question then about like moving from the world of sort of the QA and dev side of things into the voice acting side of things. How'd you get wrangled into that gig?
I mean, I was sleeping there at Ion Storm. We were working on Daikatana, and then I think one of the sound producers who I had gotten pretty close to at the time basically said to me like, hey, we went out for drinks or something. Like we took a break and we're like, let's go get a couple beers and a couple shots in us before we come back and, work at 10 o'clock at night and whatever. And he basically said something like, hey, say something like, hey, I'm going to rip off your head and shit down your neck, like in a gravelly voice. So I did it. I was like, I'm going to rip off your head and shit down your neck.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, cool, man. Do you want to be this character JC Denton and his brother Paul in the Deus Ex game? And I can't remember if that was before I started working on it however, I did say yes. Basically, it just came down to being at the right place at the right time and having had experience acting and that guy knowing it. And then also we had to, decide like, okay, is JC, he's pretty much a cyborg, for the most part.
Yeah, his vision is augmented, famously.
Yeah, famously, and he's augmented, like everything's augmented, or it becomes augmented. So basically, we just had to decide, like, is this a guy that's emotional? Is this a guy that's not emotional?
Yeah.
And it was like, no, this guy has no emotion. He's as deadpan as it gets.
Yeah.
And that's what we went with, and it ended up working pretty well, I thought. Most people love the work on it. But I've had a few people say like, oh, it's the most terrible voice acting I've ever heard. There's like no emotion in it whatsoever. It's like, well, thanks.
Yeah, a choice was made.
Yeah, it's kind of what we were going for. But okay, cool.
Well, and the thing is too, I think that for some reason, I did not realize until this playthrough and then looking up your bio that you did both Paul and JC. I did not realize that. And I think one of the things that makes their relationship so cool as brothers is that you're playing both of them and you were able to find different things in their different characters that differentiate them from each other really, really interestingly.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that. It was basically like, one is a guy he's an agent. And he's not heavily augmented and he lives his life pretty normally. And then you got JC, who is literally a product of the agency, of UNATCO. So yeah, so they're two different people, and I appreciate people who pick that up.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I'm also just curious because, like, we on our show, we all have like theater, acting, directing, whatever backgrounds. So, you know, the process of building a character as a performer is something that's really interesting to me. I'm wondering if, like, when you went into the process of finding who those characters were, what do you think like drives them? Like, how do they differ from each other in terms of what they see in the world and how they see it?
Wow. I don't think I've ever been asked that. I would say Paul would be more, again, he would be more emotionally driven. He cares about things, and he is, I think we had it that he was a moral being. Whereas JC, obviously you could make your own choices.
Right.
But it was really weird because we had to do it in a way that you could make your own choices with JC and it still makes sense. So that's pretty much where the deadpan came in. It became most important. Yeah. Because if you make absolutely amoral choices, and I play this as an emotional moral guy, right? That's obviously not going to work, and vice versa. So yeah, so that was pretty much the setup. I will say this: I think it's both easier and harder in different ways to build a character vocally than it is to do it physically and vocally.
Why is that?
You're able to use your when you do it in front of the camera, you're able to use your body to convey a lot of things. When you do it behind the microphone and nobody sees you, you have to use your voice to convey the things you want to convey. Now with JC, it was very lucky because I think there was like 11,000 lines of dialogue or something for JC. With JC, it was very lucky because again, there was that deadpan stuff. But with Paul, I had to convey like this, hey, JC, it was a little bit different, he was a different dude. So it's a little bit harder, but at the same time, it's easier. Like, I don't know. It's very hard to explain. Yeah. I guess you have to be there sort of. Sure. Or be me sort of thing.
Well, I think the point that you make about Paul is interesting, right? Where it's like he does have so much greater range, obviously, because unlike JC, he's not just this fully augmented, cyborg type being. But there are a lot of different, like, if you really track his journey from end to end, Paul's whole journey, he has a serious arc. Like, he goes from a place of being, I would say, like, optimistic, but also a little, having to be cautious because he's got to, keep his part in this parallel conspiracy covered up. Going to a very, very vulnerable place, actually, when JC meets up with him in Hell's Kitchen. And then, of course, at the end, he sort of has to also serve as JC's conscience in a way when he talks to him. What was, when it came to like finding that journey and going on that journey with the character, did you find anything along the way that felt profound for you about yourself or the world or anything like that? Or was it just, I'm here reading lines?
Like now it's almost like I'm sitting here going, yeah, I was just reading lines. Like now. But back then it would have been a different experience. And obviously I wasn't just reading lines. That's the thing. Like now it's such a distant memory that it feels like, I was just reading lines back then. But I know back then, I would have been, I don't remember exactly, but I know me, myself, I would have been looking at this going, what the fuck am I supposed to do with it? Like, this is kind of weird. Like, I have to, with this guy, talk to JC almost as if he's resolving conflict within myself as Paul. Yeah. And I need him to do it for me. And he has a choice to not do it, but I need to convey to him that I need him to do this for me, but not manipulate him because JC won't be manipulated.
Yes, yes. Well, and I think that comes through really effectively in that scene in Hell's Kitchen. Like, you can sort of hear
that.
Paul breaking a little bit. He's just like,
Yep.
I don't know how to ask this. And even like as he says, like, no, like, you know, go out the window, don't worry about me. I think there's just that small little bit that you can hear that keeps you persuaded to be like, no, fuck it. I'm going YOLO. I'm going to blow up these Majestic 12 goons and save Paul's fucking life.
Yeah, honestly, I'm starting to get a little snippets of memory back, and I just got like goosebumps, actually right down my spine. Yes, it was pretty surreal recording that stuff. That's pretty much all I have to say about that at the moment. But yeah, it was pretty surreal. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that stuff again.
Yeah. So what did the actual recording sessions look like? Was there a studio? You were in Dallas the whole time, right? So I'm assuming there was a studio at Ion Storm that you worked at, or was that offsite?
Well, the game was being made at the studio in Austin.
Right.
I was at the studio in Dallas. I did spend time at the studio in Austin, and we had a sound studio.
Okay.
The studio at Dallas was a developer's dream.
Yeah, I'm sure that was state of the art, right? Just everything.
That place was insane, and plus, you know, there was cubby holes to nap in. There was, I think, a pool table, foosball. There was, you name it. It was a video game, you know, arcade game. It was just, the place was nuts. So we're recording in Dallas, and basically we would work and do the QA all day,
right? And
then we would start recording in the evening.
Oh man!
For me, they would record other people during the day.
Sure.
But there were times I got to stop doing QA, and they actually had me come in as a dialogue coach for some of the people.
Oh, interesting.
So some of the people, like we had some actual Chinese people for the Chinatown section, come in and do some lines, and the inflections they were doing were not what we wanted. So I had to go in and say, okay, everything you're doing is perfect. We just need you to inflect it this way. And then there was other people without accents who just didn't inflect things correctly, and they got the part, but we needed them to do it. We didn't want to have to look for more people.
And this is a question that I have about just like the recording process too, is were you like doing all the reads on your own? Was there a director who was working with you? What did that side of it look like in terms of your own performance? For the most part, I remember like the director, the guy who was the sound director. I got some direction from him, but for the most part, I pretty much remember him just going like, "You got this." Like, sure.
we're just gonna keep doing these. You keep like, I do. I remember a lot of these. You know, the okay,
in the booth,
in the booth, the okay symbols. Like a lot of them after I would do a line. I think there was a bit more direction with the Paul and JC interactions.
Sure.
I think there was a little bit of, I seem to recall a tiny bit of direction with the Simons and JC interactions as well.
Were you ever reading with partners for that, or were you on your own always?
Usually on my own, always.
Okay.
I would hear, they would play if I needed to, I'd be like, I really need to hear, if you have it, I need to hear what this dude said.
Sure.
So they would play me the clips that they'd already gotten of, like, say, Simons or Gunter or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I would react off that.
Cool.
So, which is why a lot of it does sound like we were all in the same room.
Right.
Sometimes.
Well, and I guess too, like, this is something that has changed in video games a lot, right? Voice acting and the process of recording. It is, you know, you take a look at a game like, say, The Last of Us or Red Dead Redemption 2, right? It's this hyper-realistic, Hollywood-like approach to the process of voice acting, animation, and everything else. Whereas with Deus Ex and a lot of games from that time, it really is just we're going to put you in the studio, you're going to say the lines, and then A-okay.
And we're going to give you this little amount of money and see it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty much it.
But I think that part of, for me personally, what makes the voice acting in Deus Ex so memorable is that there is, for a lot of it, this sense of like, it's kind of like at times a campy, like it's a little bit B-movie. It's a little bit like, we're out here to say some things, but also like it's happening in this world that is so elevated. I'm wondering, like, how much of that sort of feel, the sort of characteristic Deus Ex feel, which I think is very strong, was intentional, and how much of it was just the result of building a game at that time with the limitations of the Unreal tech and the production environment.
I can't speak to Warren Spector's intentions when him and his designers were putting this together.
Yeah.
But I would imagine, knowing, if you played some of his other games, I would imagine there was a bit of both.
Right.
Like he intended it to be a bit, this is all about conspiracy theories. I had somebody ask me, I don't know if you watched the panel I did at PAX.
I did, yeah.
In Melbourne. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't remember if this was part of what was being filmed, but there was a question and answer, and a girl asked me if I thought that Warren Spector was a prophet, or if he had predicted these things. And I was basically like, well, no, like he's a very, very intelligent man. And I think these things are like cyclical. Like we go through these periods where people just latch on to conspiracies a little bit more than they did 10 years ago.
Right.
And we're going through that now again.
Yeah. I mean, now it's even more intense than in the past, for sure.
Right. And I think he was playing to that. But again, I can't speak for him. That's my own take on it. But I think he was playing to that, and I think he was having fun building this based on the whole conspiracy-minded person.
In terms of your approach, I guess, to JC, did you want to lean more into his seriousness, his campiness? Like, what was the balance there for you?
It was nice to be able to go in and know that no matter what, I'm doing this guy this way the whole way through.
Yeah.
That was comforting, and it made it easier, especially considering there was 11,000 lines of dialogue that JC was doing. However, when I did get some of those ridiculous lines,
yeah,
it was fun to do those in that way.
Right.
And just doing them in that way was fun, but there was no other way to do them. Like I couldn't do them any other way. That was
makes
the
sense.
thing. Like, it was just, so it was like, yeah, I had to lean into the seriousness all the time, but inside in my head, I'm like, oh, this is funny.
Yeah, and I think that juxtaposition between the very like serious-minded delivery and what he's saying, that is what creates the humor of it in many ways.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Deus Ex obviously was released, won a great deal of acclaim. We anybody listening to this probably knows that. What happened for you after the release of the game? Did you stick around at Ion Storm? Did you go on and do other stuff in video games? What happened next?
Well, the game it not only did it get critical acclaim, I think one magazine gave it Game of the Year 2 years in a row.
Yeah, well, I mean,
which
justifiably
was
so.
Like, well, yeah, which is like, what? And they're like, nothing beats this game yet. Like, it's still the best game. It's a game of the year next year.
Right.
Like, that's just how we're looking at it. Also, it got a BAFTA, which is the British Actor, Film, and Television Awards, like the British version of the Oscars.
Right.
That's crazy. Like, I was in a game that won a BAFTA. Like, that's nuts. Anyway, yeah, I was at Ion Storm for a little bit longer. Then I picked up and moved back to Los Angeles. Started working at Activision again.
Okay.
And worked on so many different games. It's ridiculous. I was the lead on the Korean bloodless version of Quake 3.
Huh.
Yeah. So, which we actually, I think, and I did a version of Tony Hawk where they took out all the music, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater,
right.
They took out all the music and replaced it with early K-pop.
Oh, wow.
For the Korean audience, yes. So
I'm going to have to track that down, that ISO. That sounds pretty fun.
That exists, and you might be able to track it down. There's a bunch of fun little things that that I was part of, but like I do like to think that I was kind of there for a bunch of different milestones. Like I was at Activision when Quake 2 released, and that was massive. I was at Activision when the Spider-Man released, and different massive games. Also worked on Tenchu, Stealth Assassin, just a bunch of reimagining of Battlezone. I don't know if you remember that. That's an excellent, another one as well. Dark Reign, all kinds of different stuff. So, went Activision for quite a while. I moved to Vegas, did some television production work out there for a while.
Oh, cool.
Then went from Vegas back to California, but Ventura that time, and then from Ventura back to Vegas, from Vegas to Melbourne 15 years ago.
And that was because you met somebody?
I married I married my fiance Tracy. Yes, she is an Aussie. She's an Aussie lass. Yes.
Very nice. So what about now? I mean, are you still involved with video games at all? Do you still stay in touch with the Ion Storm people at all?
I am in touch with a few people from Ion Storm. I was working in video games up until 2019, and I got a job at Black Magic Design.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm sure you're familiar with their products.
Yeah.
We make some awesome stuff.
Yeah. High quality AV hardware. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. It's high quality AV hardware, and we make a lot of. It's all high quality, but we also make a lot of AV hardware for people on a budget who want to do stuff from home. So if you're a studio, we got stuff for you. If you're a home YouTuber or whatever, we got stuff for you as well.
Good stuff.
So I do quality. I'm a quality assurance, senior quality assurance analyst.
Oh, you stayed in the QA game. Okay.
Yes. So
I do see that you are in this room right now, kind of surrounded by guitars. I'm assuming that music is a big part of your life as well.
Yeah.
For context, Jay is currently panning the camera. I'm looking at 3 guitars, an amplifier. There's a 4th guitar. Very good.
I dabble. It's my Zen thing. I turn on some backing tracks, or I write my own track and then just play. Just to. It's kind of a meditation thing. And we used to sort of play on the show.
Yeah, well, I saw there is something. You've got like something coming up, don't you? You're coming to New York. Is that true?
Yes, there's a. Basically, we had our 30-year anniversary of our show last year, or the year before. I don't remember. So it was like 30 years ago. I'm 51 now. I was 20 when I started on the show. Basically, we still have enough fans that show us the love. So Jenny Kwan, who played Samantha Wu on my show, I played Jake Summers. Jenny Kwan decided let's get the band back together,
very literally,
and have a meet and greet and a little show with the fans in New York City during the same week as New York City Comic Con.
Very cool.
So we are doing that. That's going to be at the Stitch. Thanks for letting me plug this, actually.
Hey, it's a podcast. Awesome. That's what we're here for.
That's going to be at the Stitch Bar and Blues in Manhattan. And then you go to my Instagram or my Facebook and just scroll down or whatever, and you'll be able to find links to buy tickets. And
very cool.
Come on down and see us. We'd love to see you.
We'll put a link
even Deus Ex fans.
Yes.
Even Deus Ex fans. I will be bringing Deus Ex pictures as well.
Oh, very good. Now, if somebody walks up to you and bows down and says, "We're not worthy," will you kick them out? That's the question.
No, in fact, I'm going to demand the whole room follow in suit.
I think that makes sense.
Yes. No, I will tell them that there's no need. No need.
Cool. Well, yeah, we'll put a link to that in the notes. So check out that link if you're in the New York City area. I am. So yeah, maybe I'll be seeing you in a couple months, Jay.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Any other thoughts or anything that you wanted to say before we close out here?
Just that, I never would have imagined that Deus Ex would have become quite the cult classic. I knew it was good, and I knew it was going to be good. I knew it was going to be awesome, but that we had people that almost live and die by this game.
I'm one of them.
I don't mean that as an insult or anything. I mean that as that people love this game. It's awesome. And that we have people that still love it and still want to care about it. I'm honored. I'm absolutely honored. I'm honored to have been a part of it. I think being part of it was I was there for a milestone. This game was a milestone in gaming. And now it's this cult classic. And again, I'm just honored to be a part of it. I'm honored that people still want to talk to me about it. I'm honored that you reached out, which is why, of course, when you reached out, I was like, well, hell yeah. You know?
Well, we're honored to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on and spending some time with me today.
I appreciate it.
So yeah, that wraps up this interview. Listeners, we'll catch you on Wednesday for the release of the full episode.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. And a bomb.
oh my God. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this interview. If you've enjoyed this, we've got a lot more stuff just like it on our podcast, The Worst of All Possible Worlds. You can check out our website, which is worstpossible.world, our Patreon, which is patreon.com/worstofall. And of course, don't forget to check out the whole episode on Deus Ex when it drops on Wednesday, August 16. We've got Jay showing up in a very special place that you might not expect. So check that out. Hope to see you soon.